Welcome to my 2024 home studio / desk setup tour. I've had a number of different desk setups over the past few years, but this has definitely been one of my favorites so far. I use this space for a couple of different reasons, from working from home to recording music to editing videos, so I wanted to design a space with as few barriers to creativity and productivity as possible. So as we go through this space, you'll see a couple of different design choices that point to this. So without further ado, let's just jump right in. The tabletop that I'm using is a butcher block countertop that I got from Lowe's. It's a solid piece of wood that measures 6 feet long and 2.5 feet deep, so there's plenty of space to work on. I sanded and stained the wood myself to achieve a more oak finish, and honestly, it was a lot of work, but I do prefer having a solid piece of wood as opposed to a wood veneer or wood laminate that you would see elsewhere, because this is a lot more sturdy. Regarding the desk legs, I'm using a pair of electric sit-stand desk legs that I got from a brand called Topski or Topsky. Just like many of the other brands out there, it has 3 programmable buttons, so you can customize the height of the desk to exactly where you want it with a single push of a button. The lowest it can go is about 27 inches, and the highest it can go is about 47 inches. The only downside that I've noticed so far about these desk legs is the fact that it's a little bit wobbly. The weight limit of these desk legs are advertised at 225 pounds, and I don't think I have that much on there, but even at its lowest setting, if I give the desk just a little push, there's a pretty significant shake to it. So that's just something I'd be a little bit mindful about if you plan on picking up one of these yourselves. On the left side of the desk, I'm using a 2020 M1 13-inch MacBook Pro in the silver finish. I got this laptop in 2020 when I first started recording music and editing videos, and it still worked great so far. The MacBook is resting on a standard laptop stand that I got from Amazon. The laptop stand originally came in black, so I did spray paint it white in order for it to better match the light wood and white aesthetic that I was going for. To plug in my laptop, I just use a single Thunderbolt cable to connect my laptop to all of my other peripherals. The cable is connected to a CalDigit CS3 Plus. I knew I wanted the CalDigit because I have a lot of different devices plugged into this thing, so I wanted something to be able to handle the load. I did experience some connection issues with the CalDigit after about 1 to 2 years of use, where it just wasn't reading all of the devices that I was plugging into it. I was able to send it back to CalDigit under the warranty period, and they were able to replace the unit with a new one, and so far it's been working okay. Above the CalDigit is a monitor stand that I got from a brand called DeskView on Etsy. The top of the shelf is a solid piece of wood in an oak finish, so it's super sturdy and there's some good weight to it. The legs are made of cork, and the shelf is in aluminum with some light gray felt material on top of it. I usually keep my Bible and my iPad in the shelving space, so I have quick and easy access to some of my more used items throughout the day. Above the riser, I have a wireless phone charger, my first camera, which is a Canon M50 with a Sigma 16mm f1.4 lens, some Demon Slayer figures, a fake plant that I got from IKEA, and a picture of my lovely wife. Regarding my peripherals, I'm using the Logitech MX Master 3 S in the pale gray finish. I really love using this mouse, but the major downside of it is the fact that it tracks dirt really easily. I try to stay really mindful about keeping my hands clean while I use my all-white peripherals, but even then I find myself having to clean the mouse from time to time. For my keyboard, I'm rocking the Keychron K10 Pro. I decided to go for a full-size keyboard with a numpad because I'm a CPA for work, but I ended up not using the numpad as much as I thought I would, so I may consider downsizing in the future. I got mine with the red switches, and I think the sound is okay. I'll probably modify it in the future in order to get a better sound, but for those of you that are interested, here is the sound test. My mouse and keyboard are sitting on a standard desk pad that I got from Amazon in the gray finish. It does a good job of protecting the wooden tabletop and just giving some contrast to all the wooden textures on top of my desk. For my monitor, I'm using a Samsung 34-inch ultra-wide monitor. It's mounted on a Vivo monitor arm that I spray painted in white to better match the aesthetic. The monitor stand has held up okay so far, but it's a little bit wobbly, so I'm not sure if I fully trust the weight capacity on this thing, so I may think about replacing this in the future as well. Atop the monitor is a monitor light bar that I got from Amazon. The purpose of the light bar is to add some lighting on top of the desk without casting a glare onto the monitor and without taking up some table space. It has a few touch-sensitive buttons to be able to change the brightness and color temperature of the light. I also have some Govee light bars attached to the back of the monitor to cast some ambient lighting onto this back wall. This really helps reduce the eye strain from looking at the monitor, especially during the nighttime. For speakers, I'm using a pair of Yamaha HS5 studio monitors in the white finish. Since recording music is one of the main purposes I had for this space, I wanted to ensure that I had something that was super flat and super accurate. These are sitting on top of some Gator Framework monitor stands that are clamped to the desk. That way it will not only save me some desk space, but when I use the sit stand feature on my desk, the studio monitors will also move up and down so they can stay at ear level. On top of the monitors, I have some more Demon Slayer figures and some more artificial plants from IKEA to add some personality and life to the space. On the right side of the desk, I have a Shure SM7B, which I use for recording vocals and voiceovers. It's sitting on top of a standard microphone arm that's clamped on the right side of the desk, so I can just pull it out whenever I need it. The studio monitors and microphone are connected to my audio interface, which is the Scarlett 2i2 3rd generation. I have it mounted to the underside of the desk for easy access, so whenever I want to play one of my instruments, I can just grab a 1/4-inch cable, plug it right in, and get to playing. Underneath the desk, I have an Ovation Launch Key MIDI keyboard. One of my favorite parts about this space is the fact that whenever I want to play keys, all I have to do is open up Ableton, roll out my keyboard from under my desk, and press a single button, and I'm ready to start playing. I didn't want to leave the MIDI keyboard on all of the time, so I opted to connect the MIDI keyboard to a USB power switcher from a brand called Sabrent. That way I can just turn on the keyboard whenever I need to use it. Since this keyboard always stays plugged in, I don't have to go through the inconvenience of looking for the right cable and plugging it in every time I want to play it. Again, just trying to minimize as many barriers to creativity as possible. Moving underneath the table, I think my cable management is just okay. I'm using a combination of different cable management raceways and panels in order to tuck away as many wires as I can. There are only a few wires that are still visible. One of these are the sustain pedal cable and the USB power cable that's connected to the MIDI keyboard. I've wrapped the cables around the keyboard stand as best as I can in order to hide it, but honestly there's not too much that I can do for the cable that's connected to the sustain pedal. As far as the power cable goes for the MIDI keyboard, I wanted to have a super long cable so that way I or anyone else that comes in can record keys from anywhere around the room. With that in mind, I just have the cable wrapped up and hanging on the keyboard stand. Another wire that's still visible is the XLR cable that's connecting the microphone to the audio interface. I just have the cable wrapped up and hanging on the clamping mechanism of the mic arm. Considering the number of devices that I have plugged in, I think the cable management is pretty good. For my chair, I'm using a standard office chair that I got from Costco. It's not the most comfortable chair in the world, and it doesn't really fit the light aesthetic that I'm going for, but the primary reason I got the chair is the fact that the armrests are capable of folding up all the way. This is a really important feature to me because it doesn't get in the way when I'm playing guitar or playing bass. For lighting, I'm using an Amaran 100X. It's a really nice light in that you can change the color temperature and brightness to exactly where you want it to be. I have a Light Dome SE softbox connected to this so I can cast some nice soft lighting whenever I'm recording videos. The light is just mounted on a regular heavy-duty light stand. I may think about upgrading this in the future to something with wheels so that I can easily move the lighting around the room when I want to record at different angles. Moving on to the rest of the studio, on the right side of my desk I have a collection of several different guitars and basses. I wanted to have these super close by and handy so that way whenever inspiration hits, I can just pick up my guitar or pick up my bass, plug in, and play. Many of these instruments were actually kindly gifted to me and have been such a blessing to me in my musical journey. These guitars and basses are sitting on a guitar rack from Hercules, and this also only came in a black colorway, so I spray painted this white to match the space better. Immediately behind the desk, I have a small little cozy, comfy couch corner that I often have my wife or my friends or artists come to just hang out. The couch is from IKEA and it's not the most comfortable thing in the world, but honestly, I've definitely been guilty of falling asleep on this couch once or twice before. I have 2 fake plants around the couch to add some life to the space, and I have some lighting behind the couch in order to bring some ambient lighting there too. On the right side of that, I have a cajon that I recently started playing when we've had acoustic worship sessions in the studio, and that's been really fun to learn. I also have a full-length mirror in order to open up the space a bit, and next to it is the Govee floor lamp that provides some ambient lighting there too. To the right of the mirror is my storage corner. I have a white dresser that I use in order to store my musical equipment, my camera gear, and other miscellaneous items. On the corners of the dresser, I have a few more artificial plants that I got from IKEA and 2 vintage cameras. One of them is an old Polaroid camera that a friend gifted to me, and the other is an old film camera that I got from eBay. Honestly, I'm not too sure if either of them work, but I use them primarily for decor pieces. On the center of the dresser, I have a couple of different items. One of them are these really cool custom Funko Pops of my wife and I that my friend gifted over to us recently. I also have a mushroom lamp from IKEA and an Amazon Alexa that we use to control the smart devices throughout our home. Above the dresser, I have 2 IKEA pegboards that are mounted to the wall. These are some other commonly seen items in the desk setup space, and for good reason. On the left one, I have my first ever MIDI keyboard, and this is the Novation Launch Key Mini, and this is just a mini version of the keyboard that I have under my desk. I also have an Instax Polaroid camera, some 1/4-inch instrument cables, my Audio-Technica studio headphones, and a shaker. On the right pegboard, I have a few Funko Pops from 2 of my favorite animes right now, My Hero Academia and Demon Slayer. I'm just missing 2 Funko Pops in order to complete my display right now, and that's Ochako from My Hero and Nezuko from Demon Slayer. I have the Pops just sitting on some drawers that I use for storage for some miscellaneous items like camera equipment and microfiber cloths, batteries, and other things like that. Lastly, to the left side of my desk, I've created a cozy little reading corner that I often go to in order to wind down, pray, and read my Bible. I got the armchair off of Facebook Marketplace for a really great price, and it's super comfortable, it's really cozy, and I think it fits the space perfectly. The last thing that I wanted to point out about this space is that this room is actually a formal dining room that we've converted into the studio space. It's pretty spacious at about 12 feet by 13 feet with 9-foot high ceilings. I'm sure you may be wondering what the curtains are for, so actually on the other side of these curtains there are no walls. It's just an open space to the living room and dining area. So I've hung up these curtains in order to create some separation between those spaces and the studio here. And when people come over, I can just open up the curtains in order to create a larger environment for people to come and hang out. As an added bonus, these curtains actually do help out with dampening the sound when recording music, so I really do like them. Well, that pretty much covers the entire studio, so it's a dedicated multi-purpose space where I can come and make music, make videos, worship, pray, and just hang out. So if you've made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching, and if you've enjoyed it, please consider liking. My name is An, and I'm a Christian that's interested in making music, desk setups, tech, and content creation, so if any of that interests you, please consider subscribing. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.